And we're live, streaming to you from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the issues and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you for helping us get to 1,336 subscribers. We've been growing steadily, and thank you so much for joining us. We get so many comments and we get so many messages. We really appreciate that. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. We love it when our audience likes and shares our videos. It helps us grow. Remember, you can chat in questions of the guests on the chat feature. We love that too. Keep that conversation going. This is a chance for music lovers and professional musicians to talk and open up about issues that we all face in the music field today. We have a wonderful band. We've got Wake the Sun, an indie rock band out of New York City that's doing some great work and putting out some great recordings. And we have 3 of the 4 members with us today. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
How are things? We're in such crazy times. I'm so glad you guys could be here today. I discovered your music through Reverb Nation, and it's just, whenever I hear a great band, I'm always like, man, these guys have something to say.
Well, thanks for that. That's awesome. Yeah, we things have been a little crazy, but luckily we've been keep on trucking and we're making it through. So happy to be here today, and thanks for having us, Jason.
So you told me, Dylan, in the pre-show that this is a new configuration of a band that started in 2016. Tell us what it's like to, how things have changed and what the new lineup looks like, and what should we expect to see from Wake the Sun?
Sure. So yeah, this is the latest iteration of the band, and it's been a blessing to have met the new guys. James being one of them, the guitarist. And it's funny. We were talking before we went live here. So prior to the pandemic, we were looking for a guitarist, and it just so happened that the whole pandemic happened, and then we kind of came upon James, and it was like, okay, well, we can't meet, so how are we going to make this work? So interestingly enough, we had to finagle doing everything remotely, and we actually recorded a whole single absolutely remotely, and it worked out, and the chemistry's been great, and now we finally are practicing again, so it's an awesome thing, and yeah, we got a lot of new stuff in the works. Luckily, as I'm sure many artists have been doing, the writing process has been in full bore. So we've just been busy doing that and kind of honing our craft. So trying to make the most of a otherwise kind of crappy situation.
Yeah, it's been so long. I mean, at first we're all like, oh, we get a 2-week vacation. Great, we'll get back to it right afterwards. And it's been a year.
Yeah.
I know, I'm the same. I'm in the classical field. It's been the same, and then just craziness. So how did you, how did the band start, and how has the the sound and the character of the band changed since the beginning?
So the band kind of started, Jeff and I went to college together, actually, in upstate New York. And we've always been in different groups and stuff since then, and kind of have developed since then many different projects, many different iterations to where we found it's kind of hard to kind of pinpoint where we decided we were gonna go blues rock, soulful rock kind of stuff. But I think it kind of just fit with the inspirations we had and what works and what we love to listen to ourselves. And so, yeah, it's kind of been fine tuned. And then most recently with the addition of Andres, our drummer, and James, it's kind of came to a forefront. And now we've kind of realized our sound, which is going to be that gritty, bluesy rock that we love so dearly. So, yeah, I mean, we've always been influenced by bands like, Rolling Stones, The Who, Led Zeppelin, those kind of bands. So yeah, it's just really music that we love to play and love to listen to, and that's kind of the basis for what that is. Jeff, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just from band to band, there's been different renditions of sound that we were chasing, and ultimately finding our grounds of fulfillment and what makes us happy as individual musicians. And what happened is we reverted back to the backbone of sound that we grew up in, which is blues and soul, and that's been the driving force of, I think, the sound that we're kind of creating today.
Blues and soul, but there's something new and interesting and modern in there too. There's kind of like a, I don't know how to describe it. There's something there that's very modern too that speaks to me as like, you know, it's that next generation, and I find that fascinating to see how bands can change. And what's it like being the new guy, James?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a pretty new experience for me, like going through the entire process and then finishing it and releasing a song and then meeting the guys in person, like after the fact.
That's really crazy. Isn't that crazy? I mean, what a year this has been.
Nuts. Yeah, but I mean, you know, it like I think the cool thing, the uplifting thing is like, didn't matter. You know, it still happened. Everything got done. The song still, you know, kicks ass, I think. And then when we met in person, I felt like I already knew the guys. So, you know, you can still do it. You know, there could be a million reasons to not do it, but at the end of the day,
we're going to listen to that song at the end of the broadcast, so stay tuned for the end, and you'll hear a couple of their songs, especially the one they just did, which is, you know, when did that come out? When was that released?
That was released. When was that released? July was that? I believe
sometime during the pandemic. Later.
Yeah, all the days kind of blend together at this point.
Yeah.
So for indie bands coming up today, now let's go look at pre-COVID. What did your schedule look like? I have so many of my colleagues and friends. They were touring, they were traveling, they had incredible seasons booked for years in advance, and all of a sudden everything grounds to a halt. I know I had 2 debuts in Europe and an opera I was going to conduct, and just gone. Right, all of a sudden we're all home. What was it like for you guys?
Well, pre-COVID was probably the same thing. Like, we had tours lined up, and then it's just a million curveballs hitting you at once, and we were like, well, shit, I guess we're staying home, you know? And you find different ways to stay productive and to keep inching forward given all the restrictions of what's going on in the world right now.
When did you guys get back together? You know, everything stops, the world stops, and how did you start making music again?
We got back together recently, a couple months ago, and yeah, it was a little weird. You know, obviously everyone had to be masked up, and we had to be like far away from each other and stuff. But we're making it work, and yeah, it's just been a very strange time for everybody. But like we said, you know, life goes on, and music keeps on going. So we weren't about to stop. That's for sure.
Now, what are some of the most memorable shows you guys have played in recent memory, or shows that were really exciting? You mentioned that you opened up for Buck Cherry before before everything shut down. What was that like?
That was cool. Yeah, we played the Paramount here in Huntington, and that was fun. It's an awesome venue. We played some pretty cool venues. So we actually have done 2 national tours, coast to coast, at 7 months at a time. Oh, there's my wife. And
greetings.
And so we played a lot of different venues, and some of the most memorable ones. I mean, probably right here in New York City, we played the Bowery Ballroom. We played Gramercy Theater.
Those legendary theaters. What's it like to play in one of those legendary theaters where you know so many great bands have played? Yeah, no, very cool. Very cool to be a part of the history there, and just know, that you're kind of stepping on hallowed ground.
Calendar, you know, like the day. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, though.
No, all good.
Like when you look at like their event calendar, it's like the day before is a legendary band, and then we would play, and then the day after us is another legendary band. Just to be part of like that history at that point in time, I think is fantastic. Yeah.
I can relate. I was down touring on opera in Florida, and I was in the dressing room, and I saw that Joe Satriani was in that same dressing room 2 nights before. I was like, yes.
Very cool.
He wasn't conducting an opera though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy when you get to take that stage, and so. What are you going to enjoy the most when you get back to the stage? What have we all missed? Like what have you guys missed about being in front of your audiences?
I mean, personally, like I just miss kind of getting lost in the music, and for me, playing on stage is like the greatest gift of this whole thing, and it's pretty much the reason why I do what I do is because it's just a different fulfillment that's really kind of unexplainable, but it's like a different high where you're just on stage and you kind of like losing yourself in the music, and you're you know you're wilding out on there on stage, and people are kind of connecting in a way that's electric, and so I'm just gonna miss that electricity and the vibes of playing live. It's just the whole thing is probably my favorite.
Yeah, just playing in front of people, right? That's what I feel like I miss the most. Lately, we've been playing to no crowds, to these virtual shows, which is cool. Like we each got to do what we have to do to like get through everything. But it's like as musicians, when you go to play a show, you feed a lot off of the energy from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is the most fulfilling thing. Like whether it's claps, even if it's boos, like yeah, it's just playing in front of people is what I long for really after this whole pandemic.
Has this been a great time to write music? Has it been a fertile time to... Who does the songwriting? Do you guys collaborate on the songs? How does the songwriting process go for Wake the Sun?
Yeah, so I primarily write like the lyrics, and I'll come to the band with like a general idea, and then we sort of craft it together, which is a nice thing. So everyone brings their unique abilities, and our drummer obviously couldn't be here today, but we were just talking about this the other day, where he has the ability to kind of add this little like nuance that like none of us would have thought of, and take the song to another level. So it is a collaborative effort at the end of the day, and yeah, to answer your question, we've been writing. We have a lot of stuff in the works, and so we're really excited to kind of get that stuff out there, and we're actually sitting on some stuff that we're going to release hopefully shortly here. We just have to figure out how we're going to do it, but a lot of really, really cool music in the works that we're really excited about.
So everyone's really engaged with the recording process in similar ways. So doing the remote recordings, have you guys done, what type of streaming events have you done, and how have you keep in touch with your fans during this time period?
Yeah, so we did a couple live videos towards the beginning, like the summertime, and we kind of released those strategically, spaced out or whatever. But yeah, it's a good way to kind of reach your fans, and it's a good way to kind of keep in touch. But again, as Jeff said, it's not the same as being on that stage, It's
a pale comparison.
Yeah,
I do the same thing. I've been doing virtual remote stuff, rehearsals, and that's not the same.
Yeah, and I can't imagine you. Yeah. I can't imagine you having to try to orchestrate an orchestra from the camera there.
It's a different world. It's this year has been tough on every musician. I think the musicians have been affected so disproportionately badly this year. I mean, we think we work our lives to get our skill set up there and to be able to play like we do and to put it together into a band and rehearse the sets, and then all of a sudden it's like we're not essential. It's like
Yeah.
But what's more essential than what people listen to or watch on TV? The entertainment has gotten people through this.
Exactly. That's
Seriously.
So in reality, the arts are one of the only things that keeps people in line when they're like separated. So yeah, it's a crazy time for all of us.
Yeah.
So what do you see as rock and roll so I hear people tell me all the time, rock and roll's dead, rock and roll's dead. I think they've been saying that since the Elvis Presley's time.
Yeah.
So how does rock and roll keep inventing itself and making itself current?
Well, if you don't mind me going first, guys.
Jump
Yeah,
in.
go for it.
I don't think that rock and roll is dead. I think that good rock and roll is just harder to find given the access people have to new music in the palm of their hands. There's just so many genres and subgenres out there where rock and roll in some way or another is not the forefront of what people are looking for, especially in the major cities, right? Major cities is like pop, hip hop, or sub pop genres. But rock and roll has always been there, and I feel like will always be there. It's just you gotta sometimes dig a little bit harder nowadays.
I watched an interview with Van Halen, and they were saying rock and roll. They thought rock and roll was dead. It was all disco at the time, and they came along this band, and it just takes people to someone to make the people listen, right? It takes a.
Sometimes people forget, and then it just takes like them being at a festival and seeing a really good rock band and be like, oh yeah, wow, like I forgot what a bunch of musicians on stage collaborating and leaving their soul on the stage like really can do for a person. And so, yeah, I don't think it's ever died. Like Jeff said, it's just you have certain like algorithms on certain streaming services that kind of like it gets buried, unfortunately. But if you know where to look, there's a lot of good stuff out there. You just gotta know where to look. That's for sure. So.
I want to add to that a little bit, just because it is an interesting thing that I've thought about, and a lot of it is like it's an attitude and if you go see like Katy Perry live, like she's gonna have like a really bomb drummer who's gonna be like shredding like Bonham triplets at some time, and there's gonna be a live band, and like any of these pop acts or like even like hip hop and rap acts, they're gonna have instrumentalists at some point, and at some point it's gonna be a rock show, and it's gonna be like explosive and heavy and big energy.
It's true, and if they ever turned off the auto tune and the Pro Tools, boy, it would be a very different show, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I want to hear it. I'm curious.
I always am. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard some of the live feeds. It's like never make the sound engineer angry, or they actually play your voice.
Oh. Yeah,
the rock bands I know, they get there and sing. It's like, it's. I have a lot of respect for people who get there and actually make music live. It takes guts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being an indie rock band, and these days I love to talk about this, there's so many ways to get your music out and to find an audience. What's been successful for you guys? I've noticed you. I heard you on Spotify, and it looks like you guys are starting to make a lot of noise on Spotify and starting to get a lot of listeners.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. We've run the gamut of different ways to try to get our music out there and get eyes on it. And, you can go through your typical publicity companies and stuff like that. We've kind of started to kind of take a step back, and we've been doing this for so long that we know kind of some of the ins and outs of the industry. We've had our ups and downs. And so we've been trying to focus more on the guerrilla aspect of things and trying to do stuff a little bit more DIY, because I think nowadays artists have the capabilities to do it. And so a lot of like doing our own boosted posts, a lot of just people that and a lot of just talking to people that friends in the industry definitely help out as well. So
there's nothing like that organic growth, right? Like once like you go out there, you live, you build your audiences from the quality of your live shows, and that's really exciting. I mean, when you look at the artists of today, the indie artists, especially, I think back in the day, a record company puts this plastic image out of what the artists are, who they are, but the indie crowd wants truth. They want to know who you guys really are. They want to like listen to the music. It has to be direct and honest.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the good thing about playing live is they see exactly who you are. They see how you actually sound. A lot of bands will have this overproduced sound, and then they go and play, and it's like, wait, that's not what I remember from the recording. So it is a good way to kind of connect to fans and show who you really are as musicians. That's kind of another part of the whole thing that we really miss during COVID, is just being able to do that, show people who we really are, because we really consider ourselves a live band that records, not like the other way around. And we've kind of been road tested and stuff. So that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, for sure.
What's it like? I love to explore the difference between in the studio and between when you write the material. How does the road and performing change the material you write?
Oh yeah, I mean, drastically.
Weather things.
Yeah, yeah.
From show to show, things will change. Parts change. Relationship between in musicianship, from one musician to another will change between songs. you definitely learn how to listen to each other's parts, to comply with like the grand scheme of things, the purpose of the song. And that definitely changes if you're a recording artist that performs. It's just totally backflip.
I also would add to that, like, yeah, you definitely on the road, especially when we were touring for weeks at a time. We would try something out new, like at a certain show, and or like try an intro piece or something, and then all of a sudden that would become part of the song. And so it's really nice, I find, to be able to road test songs before we go to record, because you're able to sort of develop that, and find out what works and what doesn't. It's almost like a comedian going out there and testing out jokes and seeing what works.
Have
and what
to
doesn't.
do it. Got to test it out. Got to
Exactly.
feel the crowd and see what works and change it around, and constantly changing your set list. How often does that change when you're on the road?
We try to keep it pretty fresh. Yeah, we try to switch it up. We'll definitely have like multiple sets that we work. We tend to like to pair up songs that, if they're in the same key, we can transition pretty easily. So, but yeah, we try to change it up, because you never know who's going to be at that show, and you don't want to keep it stagnant and the same thing over and over again, because it's that's never fun for the musician.
It's also knowing your crowd, right? Like playing based off the energy they feel. If we're playing like this, if we're part of a lineup where it's like heavier shit, then we're gonna play heavier shit because the fans want to hear heavier stuff. But if we're part of a lineup where it's like they want to hear the slower, more like ballady kind of stuff, then we have to kind of adapt to the situation. And that's being a musician. No matter what genre of music you play, no matter what instrument you play, it's tending to your listener.
Yeah, the audience is the king, right? That's what we exist as artists for, the audience, and that's being a professional artist. It takes it's a lot of learning, and it's constantly evolving, right? For myself, I'm in my mid-40s, and like I feel like I'm just learning what I'm doing. I just feel comfortable up there, and you're always learning. As a musician, there's limitless growth potential.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
We know that firsthand.
So what are some of each of your individual influences that comes together to make this band interesting? Do you guys, what music do you listen to when you're not playing your own music?
Well, I guess I'll start. I guess. So I mean, I think influences and what I listen to are maybe two different things, just because I think my influences are sort of developed from when I was like a kid. Stuff that I listened to kind of translates maybe almost like subconsciously through my songwriting. So people like Tracy Chapman, or like Bonnie Raitt, or Van Morrison, or like Otis Redding, those like people like that, sort of, I think, are underlying subconscious. I don't know, I guess you could say, sort of in the songwriting process. I kind of like, I kind of revert back to those days of a child listening to that kind of music. And then nowadays, I mean, I like to listen to, bands like Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, the Black Keys, mainstream stuff, but a lot of bands that probably no one's ever heard of, for the most part. So
it's amazing music. You kind of this mix and match, and kind of it's. I had a famous composer who's also a writer. He was talking about like great composers, how to become a composer today, you're kind of sitting in the rubble and you kind of put things together until it works. And that's kind of how we come up with our own styles. Is everything we experience as musicians, we synthesize it together, and then the magic of alchemy of adding more people to that, like a band like yourselves. You guys turn that into something unique and new.
Exactly, and so that's why Jeff has a lot of influences that are completely different, and I'm sure James has completely different people as well, and that's maybe where that modern kind of thing comes into play when you were talking about how the sound kind of has that modern edge as well.
If you guys could have a beer or jam, and you can jump in on this one, a beer or jam with any musician, living or deceased, who would it be?
Oh man.
Ooh.
James, you go first.
I mean, my gut is obviously telling me Hendrix, but
Good call.
another part of my gut is telling me Woody Guthrie, because that could be very interesting. And then I don't know, you know when they find like those tablets of like old like flute music from Greece? I wonder what that guy was about. He probably drank beer. He was probably
They did.
Yeah.
The Egyptians, they lived on beer. It was just lower alcohol content, but they just kind of mash like kind of beer. Yeah, they I tell my kids this all the time, I joke around, that alcohol probably was the reason we have society, because they couldn't drink the water and the beer. You know,
right.
I've heard that.
Alcohol killed the bacteria and stuff, I bet, or prevented it from growing.
You didn't die when you drank it.
Genius. Yeah, any of those three people.
Excellent.
I mean, honestly, that's a really tough one for me too. But I'd imagine like the Stones back in the heyday, like just like what that must have been like just going on stage and then like coming off stage and hitting like the motorcade and then like going back to their, palace and partying with them must have been quite a thing. So maybe something like that, but I don't know. Maybe
I saw the Stones in the high school in the 90s. I thought they were ancient then, and then my brother saw them 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still doing
those
it.
guys can still put on a show. They're still selling out Giant Stadium.
Still killing it, yeah.
Crazy. How about you, Jeff? Oh, we lost Jeff's sound. You're muted at the second, so make sure you're muted. We'll make sure your sound is on. Quentin will check your sound, and we'll come back. There we go. All right, we'll get your sound back on. Can you hear us, Jeff? Well, we'll come back to Jeff in a second as we work out the sound issue. So do you guys have any concerts on the books coming up? When can we see you guys on the stage? When is it looking like the next
So
time might be?
we currently haven't really booked anything yet. I've been talking with the band. We're trying to develop something for probably like late fall. So if you check our Facebook or if you check any of our like socials, we'll have that stuff up hopefully relatively soon. Right now, we've just been focusing on the recording side of things. So we are looking to release a couple things in the near future here. So we're super excited about that. So obviously check back with that as well. So you can find us on Facebook. Wake the Sun Official is our Facebook. Or Instagram is Wake the Sun Band. So yeah, we got some stuff lined up, and then it's just a question of who's gonna be open and willing to have live music, and then we'll kind of take it from there. But hopefully sooner than later.
We'll certainly be ready for that when it comes, and make sure you check out this band. This is an exciting band. They're on the rise, and they've check out their catalog on Spotify. Where else can we hear you? I know Spotify is one of them. YouTube?
Yeah, we're all over. So Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, pretty much any streaming platform you can kind of think of, we're probably there. So yeah, just a quick Google search and you'll probably find it.
Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and we're going to play some of your music now. And this is a band to watch, and make sure when they come back on the stage, you check them out. Thank you so much, and enjoy Wake the Sun.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to like and subscribe, and remember, keep music alive.